Hey everybody, Alex here. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Podcast of the Rings. Wanted to briefly interrupt before we get into the episode for a few announcements and special thanks, housekeeping stuff at the top. Firstly, we are doing a Patreon goal over at patreon.com/podoftheRings. When we get to 20 total patrons, we will be recording a Patreon exclusive episode where we will watch and review the saucy Lord of the Rings parody film, Lord of the G-Strings. And that episode is going to be only available to patrons. So again, head on over to patreon.com/podoftheRings, pledge at any level, and you will help support the show and get access to that exclusive episode when it is released. Also, we want to give a very special thanks to one of our patrons, Jesse Glaspie. Thank you so much, Jesse, for pledging at that $10 Elven King level. Thank you so much for supporting the show. If you would also like to get a special thanks at the beginning of our episodes, head on over to patreon.com/podoftheRings and pledge at the $10 level or above, and we'll shout you out at the beginning of each episode. All right, that's all our housekeeping stuff out of the way for this week. So thanks again, everyone, for listening, and enjoy this week's episode.
Hello and welcome to Podcast of the Rings, the only podcast about Lord of the Rings ever to be broadcast today. In the last 20 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure it's happening elsewhere, but right now, the one you're listening to it's the first one. So welcome everybody to Podcast of the Rings. Last week we talked about some lore, and then there was some serious news, so much so that it wasn't broken to us until Ben Goddard, former guest of Podcast of the Rings, said, I'm coming back onto the show to talk about it. And so we have Ben Goddard back. Welcome back, Ben.
That is on my business card. It is Ben Goddard, former guest of Podcast of the Rings.
I guess that's a weird way to put it.
It's just like one of those baseball stats. The best Lord of the Rings podcast you're listening to on February 27th in 2023. Yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It won't be true March 1st, but
I saw this, and then we talked a little bit, and I tagged you guys, and, you know, I did fall for a little bit of the internet trap, you know, because that's all social media platforms do, like, you know, discussing film and variety and, you know, slash film and whatever. They pick a line either out of like an article or an interview that will get the most retweets without people reading the article. And granted, there was no article attached to this, but I can't remember what tweet I retweeted, but it was like Warner Brothers set for Lord of the Rings reboot, which makes it sound like they're remaking the movies, but I don't think that's the case. I think in the same thing that we talked about where, you know, they called Glass Onion a Knives Out sequel when it should have been like, you know, a Benoit Blanc mystery or something like that, or Harley Quinn and Birds of Prey instead of the Birds of Prey. Like, people need that name. Yeah, people need that name recognition, and I think that's why they called it a Lord of the Rings reboot rather than like more Middle-earth stories coming, even though I think, especially with Rings of Power coming out this exact year, like, or actually last year, sorry, it's 2023. I think people would have gotten on board with Middle-earth, like more Middle-earth stories coming from Warner Brothers.
And to back it up a little bit, for those who don't, if you've been living under a rock for the past...
If you don't live in Arda.
Exactly. If you don't know, it was announced that Warner Brothers made a deal with Embracer Group, who just last year over the summer, I believe, acquired the rights from the
estate
Saul Zaentz company to make films, to make video games, theme park attractions, pretty much anything except TV, because that's complicated with the rights. Warner Brothers has reached a deal with Embracer to basically make more films. this I feel like was kind of an inevitability. Like when I remember when I first heard the news that Embracer acquired the rights, it was like, okay, they're jumping on this when the Rings of Power hype is hot because they know they're going to be able to cut a deal. But yeah,
I think Ben's point is also that I don't think Middle Earth is such a foreign term that people won't know what that's about if they said that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Ben's point about the sensational clickbaity headline of Lord of the Rings reboot.
And it worked, right? Everyone was talking about it.
Yep.
Yeah,
It
but
was
they could
trending big
have
time.
they could have easily said Middle Earth Films. It would have been more accurate. So the article that I have pulled up is the Hollywood Reporter. I think they were one of the first
to break the news.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they were the first, but in the Hollywood Reporter article, they specifically have a statement. I can't remember. Let me see. From Michael DeLuca and Pamela Abdi. They specifically say in this article that the Peter Jackson film trilogy is iconic. They call it a landmark series of films, and that they're looking forward to exploring more in that world. So they kind of, I think, explicitly say, we're not interested in rebooting the Lord of the Rings story. We just want to tell stories in this world. They use the term cinematic world, which...
Ugh.
Yeah, exactly, Jess. Like the whole cinematic universe thing, I have mixed feelings about, because I think pretty much everybody but Marvel has failed to kind of do that.
The Conjuring.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Is that like what is it, Annabelle?
Yeah, Annabelle, and The Nun. Like, I mean, granted, very different between, $200 million movies that need to make $1 billion to profit, and, $30 million movies that need one good weekend. But still, hey, James Wan, he makes money. That's all. Like, he just prints money. That dude is awesome.
Are we also standing here today and saying that Tyler Perry doesn't have his own cinematic universe and that it isn't successful? Because I think that that's a very successful cinematic universe.
Yeah, I think that's the difference.
We should be careful.
That's the difference between a major studio at the helm and an auteur at the helm, though. I think there's a difference there.
I don't know. I just say that Medea has her own world that she is living in.
These
saying
are facts. These are just the facts.
And Sharknado is hot on the heels of that.
Yeah, I was gonna say Fast and Furious, but besides Hobbs and Shaw, which did okay, but even didn't do as well as they thought it would. There hasn't been like any spin-offs. Like there needs to be spin-offs for it to be like a universe, not like a franchise.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. It's like TV spin-offs in its day when Frasier, people forgot Frasier was from Cheers, or you were of a certain age, you didn't know that. And yeah, having a standalone Universal movie that doesn't have the title Iron Man in it and still being successful. Yeah, I got it.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how this kind of interacts and what the play here is between this franchise that is now going to be a franchise as opposed to just it's two trilogies, and how that kind of interacts with the Rings of Power show, because we're going to have these things coexisting at the same time, sort of two takes on Middle Earth. I'm assuming they're not gonna go in the same direction Rings of Power is going. So they hint in the article that, well, this is speculation by the writer, that it's possible that we will have essentially spin-off stories of beloved characters from the Lord of the Rings. Like we could have a Gandalf movie. We could have The Adventures of Young Aragorn. We could have... I think one of the things that popped to my mind was like a movie about Legolas. We don't. Well,
what about a Legolas and Gimli post-war Like,
It's
bro.
literally what I have in my notes, Jess. Literally, because
Just like
I wasn't aware that they were avoiding TV, because I have this as an anthology series. Because whether you love or hate Rings of Power, whatever your feelings on it, you can't deny that it's a little slow with the overall narrative. There's a lot of world building we need to do. So I think that just an anthology in the same vein of, like, Love, Death, and Robots, where you just tell a story, and it can be however long, a Black Mirror, where, there's all
So
like an overall
smart.
theme of like, AI and technology is bad is the overall theme of Black Mirror. And this could just be like Middle-earth short stories. And one of them could be Legolas and Gimli, like, exploring caves and going on bromantical adventures. That'd be awesome.
a buddy road trip movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So that actually is the
Michael
Silmarillion,
Cera
then.
as Legolas and Jonah Hill as Gimli. Green light it right now.
Sold.
Oh,
Honestly,
another
it's so good.
real quick. We lost the amazing Richard Belzer last week. Well, you guys probably know him from Law and Order, but I saw this tweet and I'm looking at it right now. He had his own cinematic universe where Richard Belzer appeared as Detective Munch on Homicide, Law and Order, SVU, Trial by Jury, The Wire, 30 Rock, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, The Beat, Arrested Development, and The X-Files.
Also, Saint Elsewhere too.
Oh, I didn't know that. Like this.
So I poorly explained this on the Scott and Jess in the Morning news show this past Friday. But because Richard Belzer shows up as Detective Munch in Saint Elsewhere, not a single TV show in that universe that he shows up in and then has a spin-off from there, it all exists in the Saint Elsewhere kid's mind, who has like basically the end of St. Elsewhere's, it pulls out and a kid has been looking at a snow globe and we're supposed to believe that this kid has made up the stories for the last 3 years that this TV show was on, or however long. So everything that kid created is in that snow globe, including Law and Order, X-Files, all those things.
Oh, I
know.
it.
Yes, the Tommy Westphal universe theory, that it's just the branching out. I feel like gone are the days of the crossovers,
I don't think that's right.
Like
Really?
all those procedurals, like the
Grey's
Chicago
Anatomy.
Fire, like all, now there's like, Chicago Fire, hospital, ER,
The
maternity
Chicago series.
ward.
Yeah.
There's all those.
Okay.
I think they cross over a lot. And then maybe like there's more than one 911 show now. I'm not sure.
I think that's right. And then also they did it. We talked about this. The Rookie has the Feds Rookie, and they call it the Rookie Universe. So it's the one
really?
with what's his face. It's so dumb, but
Nathan Fillion?
Yeah, but then Lishi is her name, I guess. I should know her name. But also, so there's the Rookie Universe, literally is what they're calling it. And then Grey's Anatomy crosses over with Station 19 all the time because they're trying to get people to watch Station 19. So all of the people from the fire department in Seattle bring all the sick people to Seattle Grace, essentially.
So, do you think that with this new deal, then we're going to get a Game of Thrones Middle-earth crossover? Those universes are now going to be connected.
Not if there's not a TV element to it.
I don't know. Just saying. What
think-
would be more financially successful than crossing over those two franchises?
What?
I would
No.
love to see Aragorn play in the Game of Thrones. Like,
Yeah.
he's way
and
too
then we could have a
honorable.
fun Sean Bean Spider-Man meme moment
It's very true.
because he
I
plays
actually-
two characters.
This is actually when
die.
you're at your worst. This is Alex at his worst right now.
Just an agent of chaos.
Oh, no, you're not. I'm supposed to be.
Okay.
Well, so that's kind of the one of the things we were going to talk about is like, did we need to do this? How does Rings of Power play into this whole world? If they're doing it, what do we want to see them doing it? And then we're going to round out today with some dream casting or some of our hopes. We have a couple of Patreon suggestions as to dream casting that people might want to see. I think I wanted to talk about Rings of Power first, though, because one of the things that can be criticized about it was how many times it nodded towards Peter Jackson. But if I'm extrapolating from the reporter's report about it properly, the new creators over at Warner Brothers also want to make sure that they're nodding to it. So it seems like everything's going to rhyme.
So I have a quote from the Hollywood Reporter article that addresses this. It says, in a statement, Peter Jackson and his Lord of the Rings partners, Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyens, noted that they were aware of the latest development, and they said that Warner Brothers and Embracer have kept us in the loop every step of the way. We look forward to speaking with them further to hear their vision for the franchise moving forward. And then a note from the writer here. Jackson previously noted that Amazon asked him to be involved on its Lord of the Rings TV show, but then did not follow up. So it sounds like Warner Brothers is learning from Amazon's mistake, if you can call it a mistake, and they want to have Peter Jackson and company involved. And so I think we're going to see more than just nods to the Jackson universe. I think this is going to be Peter Jackson being directly involved, would be my guess, and overseeing the vision. I don't want to say go as far as saying he's going to be a Kevin Feige type for this. But I mean, if they want to follow the successful model or attempt to follow the successful model of the MCU, they might try and do that with Peter Jackson and be like, hey, you can oversee this vision with us.
Well,
I think it's the best place for him because, you know, he hasn't directed a movie like a cinematic movie, a non-documentary feature. Sorry, I don't know the exact term. Like, you know, he's directed 2 very good documentaries in They Shall Not Grow Old and, you know, the Beatles stuff that he did for Disney Plus. But I think, you know, an executive producer, like artistic lead, like whatever position that he's given, like a steady hand on that wheel would be great. And, you know, I don't think Warner Brothers will make the, you know, we've talked about it at length, you know, the quote unquote mistake as they laugh their way to the bank of rushing the Hobbit trilogy. Yeah. But, and even the mistake of like, oh, we need another trilogy. Because I feel like, you know, Disney kind of got into that with Star Wars where they're like, no, this next, you know, the sequel trilogy needs to be a trilogy because they've done trilogies before when, you know, it could have done with, you know, maybe 2 movies, maybe 4, you know, it didn't need to be 3 exactly. And you really felt that by the time Rise of Skywalker came out. But I think I like this. I'd like some TV because, you know, in the same vein of like, oh, we're going to nod to Lord of the Rings. You see that. I don't know if you guys have ever watched Fargo on Hulu. 2 of the best seasons of television of 1 and 2 of Fargo, where you can see so many nods to either Fargo itself or other Coen Brothers works. Like in season 2, there's a big, you know, No Country for Old Men kind of shootout. That's very, very similar. So there's lots of good nods in there too, without it being, you know, quote unquote, that bad fan service. You know, the fans, that trigger word that everybody has, fan service. Where you can nod to something and respect it and acknowledge it, but not like go overboard with it.
Totally.
Well, yeah, I think you just mentioned another universe too. I guess it's the television universe, but Fargo has its own universe.
That's very true.
Yeah,
they're all connected.
So you're dumb, Alex.
I know. I just, you know what? Maybe I just don't watch enough TV these days.
No, it's all coming to me right now. It's
just too much.
It is.
So I would say the other thing that is interesting about this is next year we are getting, and this was slated, this has been in production for a while because it's an animated film and those take forever. But we are getting the War of the Rohirrim next year coming out. That was already on the slate before this deal was reached. So there was kind of, in my mind, questions about what was going to be happening with that when Embracer acquired the rights. I'm interested to hear what you guys think about what these movies might be, because we have the Lord of the Rings trilogy, we have the Hobbit trilogy. What are things? Are there any characters you want to see fleshed out? Are there stories, bits of lore, anything like that? Or what are you guys' thoughts on that?
I'd love for, like, if we did all animated, I'd be completely okay with it. You know, Star Wars did Visions, where, you know, they did a bunch of different anime, like different Japanese anime studios got to do a bunch of different stories. And also, you know, in that way, like, you could have the voices of, like, you know, Orlando Bloom, because as anyone can age gracefully, like it is impossible to portray an immortal, ageless elf that doesn't go past a certain. Now, guy, we've got the de-aging technology. You know, if Warner Brothers can get that stuff, like it's definitely improved. I think Sam Jackson looked great in Captain Marvel. I think Mark Hamill looked freaky as heck in in that first reveal in Mandalorian. But I had Gimli and Legolas go on adventures, and I think like that's a greenlit movie right there. Now I don't know. I was thinking Will Poulter for the new Legolas, because he is all Marvel buffed out, and you know he has really come into his own of like he's gorgeous and just looking all ripped and everything. For Gimli, I don't know. I wasn't thinking of fan casting just yet, but I'll think of that.
That is an interesting point that I hadn't considered, which is funny because we'd have an animated Lord of the Rings movie coming out next year, but of them doing a mix of live action and animated stuff, because there are, I mean, you could bring back the old cast, like, you know, when I was thinking of a Legolas casting, I was like, oh man, it's just so ingrained in my mind as Orlando Bloom.
It's so tough
as Legolas, but yeah, they could just bring him back with voice. That's a really, really good point.
Will Poulter, I didn't know that's what his name was, and the first time I remember seeing him was in Bandersnatch, and he's such a little POS in that, and he has gone from weird, awkward-looking kid, to somewhat hunky.
No, he has gone full Marvelized, like workout. He's gonna play Adam
Warlock.
Yeah, Adam Warlock in the new Guardians movie, and he is like he's got his hair all blow dried and poofed out. He's worked out, man. He is.
How did this happen?
We all were surprised.
The world is surprised.
Yeah.
You know what? He kept on working through his awkward phase because he was such a good actor. You don't sometimes survive that weird, awkward phase of being a teenager if you start out as a child actor, unless you're a good actor, which I think is true for him. I mean, everyone talks about that with Pattinson from... I guess he was pretty good looking. And
what? I was gonna wait. What? Robert Pattinson, gorgeous Cedric Diggory went into gorgeous Edward. Went into like what?
I know. I remember people going, "You'll never believe this guy is that guy."
Oh my god!
So
people.
It's funny you bring up Robert Pattinson because he is on my list, and I have two options for him.
I can see.
I don't want to get into one of them because we'll get into that later because I have so many deep lore thoughts about what movies they could make.
All right, I've got Alex's pick is either young Aragorn or what's the ancient tale that Aragorn is singing about? Luthien and
Beren and Luthien.
That's the two picks I have.
I didn't even think about that. He could be a Baron.
No, I would not want to watch.
Bring back Kristen Stewart for Luthien, baby. Let's go!
Yes.
No.
There's the crossover we need.
Right.
I think she won't do a movie unless she's dating a woman in it anymore. I have no idea if that's true or not.
I do have Aragorn, played by Viggo Mortensen, fourth age Aragorn, ruling as a king.
Bringing back Liv Tyler. I was just thinking that.
Yeah, I haven't seen Liv Tyler, but again, like even if they've quote unquote aged, everybody ages. You have de-aging technology you can use on Liv Tyler if you really feel the need to. But the last time I saw her, she was still looking gorgeous as ever and ethereal as ever. So I think
for however old he looks, she can look older, but we can just believe he's just another 100 years and he's about to die. Like it's like the preamble right before he dies and what she does without him.
So
I have him at his height, where like he's old, but you know. Like he's Numenorian old, where they just get like more powerful with age. So I have him like at the height of like the men of Gondor, like bringing that because I want to see that kingdom. You know, we only saw like
let's see that tree bloom, man.
I want to see that tree bloom, baby.
What's interesting about that is you could do a lot with that. You could do sort of Gondor at its height, but fun trivia tidbit: Tolkien actually did complete, I think, only like 20 pages of a sequel to Lord of the Rings.
Oh, okay.
And it was set in the rule of Aragorn's son, called The New Shadow. And it was going to be about how there was this cult, and even though Sauron had been defeated, there was still evil in the land. And so you could have maybe a nod to that story. You could have Aragorn, maybe he's passed on rule to his son, and we get to see his son Eldarion rule, but he's still kind of in the background. That would be a cool idea. And that was one of the things that really got my mind going about this was, what are they going to focus on timeline wise? Are we going to have, are they going to just do whatever they want and do things set before Lord of the Rings in the Third Age and maybe even going into the Second Age or potentially First Age? Or are they going to do things set after? What's the plan going to be? Because in these cinematic universes that we've seen, the MCU being successful, they're going chronological. So my thought was it would make sense. Like, there's so many great Third Age stories that you could tell before Lord of the Rings, some including characters that we know. There's a lot of blank canvas, like with Legolas and Gimli. The one I was thinking was you have the story of Balin and the company he takes with like Owen and Ori going to like colonize Moria. You could have that. a Balrog cameo in the colonization of Moria, and you could even bring back some of the actors from the Hobbit trilogy with that. Ken Stotts, like think of a movie led by one of the best dwarf actors in the Hobbit trilogy, a lead role for Ken Stotts. That'd be kind of cool.
I'd love that. Now, does Balin and them ever run into the Balrog, or do they just like get overtaken by orcs?
Yeah, no, they just get overtaken by orcs.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, the Balrog is woken
by
before. Yes, by.
Thank you.
I regret bringing you back onto the podcast.
Thank
Ben.
you so much.
It didn't take long, everybody. Let's go.
I'll die on that hill. I never said it was a good choice. I'm just saying that's the choice they made. So, we actually did have a great suggestion, which I don't know how I feel about this, but it's here's something that people I've seen them decry, call for, want, but suggest may never happen because he seems to be cut out every time. No Tom Bombadil, y'all. Because you just can't make it work, right? You're just like, how do we get this guy? How do we not make it look like we just went to the carnival? You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure it's got to be hard to portray him. However,
Nick Offerman and Megan Mullally as Tom Bombadil and his wife. Done, and I can't think of the...
That's so good.
I can't think of the wife's
name.
Moon
River, Water Child. Here's the thing. I will say what Graham, our Patreon member, said. He said Zach Galifianakis.
Okay, yeah.
I can see it, yeah.
I don't think that he's right. but I like that it could be funny. I mean, I think Graham is saying he'd bring he'd bring a bit of Tempest to the role.
But I feel like Tom is like so unbothered by everything. Like,
yeah, he's kind of like a Zen master. One of the people that
could have easily taken, like, Tom Bombadil is one of the people that could have skipped to Mordor and thrown the ring into Mount Doom with like zero trouble.
Should have,
but he just didn't want to leave the woods.
Yeah.
Here's a thought for that movie. I love you could go either Zach or Nick. I think going Zach Galifianakis fits with this idea that just popped into my mind, which is talking about doing animated. You could do an animated Tom Bombadil movie, and it's just, and you can do a nod to the book. You can call it The Adventures of Tom Bombadil, and it's just Tom Bombadil going around Middle Earth, and you can have it be just whatever time, because Tom Bombadil's been there since the beginning.
Yep.
You could just have him going around, and it turns out, unbeknownst to the reader, that Tom has been in the background of everything. He's been there for all the major events of the history of Arda. And so it's him just going around with Goldberry and they're just hanging out watching from the sidelines, and maybe you can have them like, oh, this thing that happened actually was Tom Bombadil kind of like affecting the world, but nobody saw him, nobody knew he was there. He's just hopping around.
I one up Nick Offerman and offer Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn. I'm just remembering her name.
That's so great. Yeah. I love that.
Because I think Nick Offerman is just, I mean, he's a joyous person, but he plays upset. I guess the reason why Nick Offerman is good is because he could kick some butt if he needed to, because he really can just go into it. But like, I view Tom Bombadil as just joyful.
Yeah, that's fair.
But not that Kurt Russell isn't, but that's why it was so good to make him Star-Lord's dad and Chris Pratt's dad, because it's kind of like the passing of the torch. Like, you get to be the funny, heroine for I can't. Forget it. Good night.
It just kept getting worse. No, but I really do love Kurt Russell, because, like, Christmas Chronicles is not... I judge Christmas movies, like, on a different scale than, like, actual movies.
Fair.
So, like, while I don't think Christmas Chronicles is a great movie, I think he's one of, if not possibly the best Santa in Christmas movie history. Like, he's up there. He's at least top 5. At the bare minimum, he's top 5 Santas. You're
saying Ed Asner isn't number 1?
No.
I know, he's not.
No,
He's not just kidding.
Like, Richard Attenborough is higher than Ed Asner from the new Miracle on 34th Street. New is in, the 90s.
Yes.
But you watch those Christmas Chronicles movies, and he is in the cheapest looking set of a jail cell playing blues music as Santa Claus, and he is giving 110%. Like, Kurt Russell is the definition of there are no small parts, just small actors. Like, so good. So yeah, I rescind my Nick Offerman, and I'm fully endorsing Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn.
Gosh, it's good. I'm enjoying that. Sounds real fun to me. I still think I like where you're going with Alex. It actually could play into an anthology to Ben's earlier idea, and it's kind of got like a what if vibe.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's why I think you do it animated, and then you can easily jump around wherever you want because it's animated.
Gosh, so interesting.
I really think animated has made such a... I don't want to say comeback because animated movies make a lot of money all the time, but I feel like more recently with anime becoming such a more known genre and more popular genre with, Attack on Titan and, Demon Slayer. The latest Demon Slayer movie is the highest grossing animated movie of all time. It finally passed Spirited Away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I feel like...
someone give Abby a call. Congratulate her.
Yeah. It's becoming more... It's getting more recognition. And so I think that if you release like an animated Lord of the Rings movie, which I didn't even know about the Ride of the Rohirrim, that sounds awesome. But I think if you did animate it, and also there's that suspension of disbelief where, if Legolas does the Super Mario, walk in an animated movie, I'm going to believe that more just because your mind is like, oh, it's animated. You can do those things. Like you watch, like the newest Puss in Boots movie was insanely good. And Puss is like, swinging on swords and like attacking like this forest giant within 30 seconds of the movie. And you're like, yeah, this seems about right. Like there's a cat in boots with a sword fighting a forest giant. Like, yeah, I'm okay with that. And so there's that suspension of disbelief of like, with this fantasy series, which we're all on board for, but with that animated side to it, I feel like people will be more accepting of some of the goofier stuff or some of the lighter-hearted stuff where you can combine like maybe some serious action with that, where those tones really clash in that Hobbit trilogy.
Yeah, 100%. It is part of the style that you're sort of suspending your disbelief just a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And could lead to some cool stuff. So one more idea that I had, go with me on this. Speaking of Rohan, the War of the Rohirrim movie coming out, we could also, in the Third Age, explore the story of Errol the Young. So he is one of the characters mentioned in the Lord of the Rings, the first king of Rohan. So basically, imagine this is the origin story of how Rohan came into existence. I think this would be such a fertile ground for them to tell this story. We know a little bit about it, but they could, similarly to Rings of Power, this is like all stuff coming from the appendices, and they could flesh out, add new characters, do so much with it. So do you guys have any thoughts? Who would you want to see? Who do you think could play the first king of Rohan? Think, I mean, because who did we have in the Peter Jackson? We had Carl Urban as Éomer, and what's the King Theoden? I'm trying to remember the actor's name. I'm
John
terrible.
something, some jerk.
I should know this, but I don't. I can't think of it.
He was mean about Rings of Power. He's like, I don't count it as Lord of the Rings. I won't be watching it. And I'm like,
that's right. Yeah, he was very dismissive about it.
He was a jerk about it. And good, like, just be happy for what you did. Don't tear down other people. That's kind of where I'm at. Like, it felt very Kevin Sorbo to me, even though I'm sure it's not.
Okay. We're not gonna put him with Kevin Sorbo, okay? a bridge too far.
All right. I'm just saying it felt like, all right, dude, we like you, but not that much that you can say whatever you want.
Yeah.
So what are you saying, Alex? Another Theoden, or
like who do you guys think is another actor who could portray the first king, the most Theoden, the first king of Rohan, who has that?
I don't know about this specific role. I just know that I need to see Ralph Fiennes in this world.
Okay,
he is so good in Harry Potter. I just watched The Menu, and he's just. Maybe he could play like, you guys talked about Ungoliant last week, and I'm such a fan of that story. I want to see that put to screen. Like, just Morgoth and Ungoliant. And I don't know how many truly evil people Ralph Fiennes can mentally handle playing in one acting lifetime. Right. But I think he'd make an incredible Melkor. I think he'd be so good.
I think
I offer this Sauron.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, a younger Sauron he could be good as. I think Melkor, or he could be the Witch King. I think.
Oh, like getting seduced? Or
no,
just like
we could. I mean, I think that's treading on Rings of Power territory, but I think post seduction, because one of the ideas I had for movies they could potentially explore would be what is informally referred to by fans as the Angmar Wars, which was essentially the Witch King fighting against the northern kingdom of Arnor, and so you could have him as the big bad for that movie or movies, because they could. I know you had kind of said, well, I don't know if they want to do another trilogy, but if they did do a trilogy, if they were to do another trilogy, I think the Angmar Wars would be the perfect fodder for that. And I think having a guy like him who could play villains as the Witch King, a more fleshed out version of the Witch King that is, we see more of their motivations and their character than we do in the Peter Jackson adaptation, where he's kind of just a monster,
Yeah.
Could be cool. I think he could be a good villain for that arc.
I can see it. I can't lie. Your foundation of Rohan sounds like it's gonna flop at the box office. What's the conflict? I'm curious. So, I want to know more.
Yeah,
because you brought this up for a reason. You know more lore than any two people combined.
So here's the story in a nutshell. Is essentially you have the Easterlings, who these two groups known as the Wayne Riders and the Balkoth,
and they're. Are you having a stroke?
Yes, they're invading.
Balk off me, bro.
I'm a infection. Ben, leave, hurry.
Taste your own medicine there. Oh my God. That's what the men of the North, the Aothead, were saying when they were being invaded by the Wayne Riders. They were saying back off.
Bandwagon's full there, buddy. All right.
So basically, the ancestors of the Rohirrim, they're living in the North. They're getting taken out. Gondor tries to help them. One of their kings dies in aid, and then eventually these men from the East are just taking over all these lands, and Gondor is being invaded. And they call upon the Aothead, and Errol the Young comes down with a massive force and helps out the Gondorians in this conflict. And at the end of the conflict, they are gifted the land of the Kalantan, can't remember what it is. Basically, what was known as what is Rohan in the Third Age that we know used to be part of Gondor. It's gifted to the Aothead, and that's the story in a nutshell. So it would be kind of this very grim, I think, kind of tale of these people trying to survive this invasion. Maybe warning the Gondorians they don't heed their aid, and then this force comes knocking at their door. It's the origin of the idea, which is not, unfortunately, it's not in the Peter Jackson films, but the notion of the Red Arrow, something that is gifted to people when Gondor needs aid. It is a symbol of that, so we could have that sort of reveal the origin of that. I think it's an interesting story. It gives foundation to like where did the Rohirrim, the Erlingus, come from? We can see the foundation of their kingdom, see their glory in battle. It would be just a war movie.
We know so much about Erlingus, but does anybody know about Gondor?
No, you can't. You can't.
You get one.
You know what though? People stopped listening when Alex was talking, and they started listening again.
Kind of what?
I couldn't even get through it. I'm sorry. Once you said Aerolingus, I missed everything.
Ben can't get through Cunnilingus, folks.
That's what I heard.
Jesus.
You are drunk. Go to jail.
I'm drunk. Absolutely. Another actor I do want to see though is Anya Taylor-Joy. Anya Taylor-Joy is literally an elf. Like, she is literally an elf of Middle-earth. So, Warner Brothers, there is no asking price too high to get her in this, in these movies.
Who I think she would be great as is if they do a Beren and Luthien story. She could be Melian. Because Anya Taylor-Joy has this, like, otherworldly look about her.
Yes.
Like you're saying, like this elf thing. But I think having her, she might be a little young for Melian, but like, I mean, Melian's a Maya. She could take whatever form she wants, so she could choose to be young, even though she's ancient.
So since you've never told me the story of Beren Luthien, like I wanted you to, who the heck is Melian?
Melian is Luthien's mother. She is the wife of Thingol, who's the king, one of the leaders of the three houses of the elves that chooses to stay behind in Middle-earth.
So you're telling me Luthien isn't just a high elf. She's a half Maya?
Correct.
So that's why the Noldorians, not the Noldor, the guys, Gondor, from Rings of Power,
the Numenorians.
Numenorians are like insane, not just because they're elves.
There is a hint of Maya ancestry.
What?
Even in Aragorn, there's a tiny little bit that's very diluted.
It's kind of like how Sookie Stackhouse has fairy blood, and Bill the vampire can smell it on her, and that's why they want to eat her blood, because she tastes good, and vampires almost wiped out all of the fairies. And Sookie didn't know she had fairy blood until it was revealed that her grandma and the lineage and
Now I know how you feel. I didn't follow any of that.
which is why I kept on going.
Yeah,
It's
you
exactly
really went
the
into
same,
some
though.
True Blood lore right there.
I actually am so sad I know so much. When really all I really wanted to see was, more of Alexander Skarsgård. That's all I really wanted.
He'd be good in
Ooh.
this too.
I was gonna say who could he be?
Ooh, he's Elrond. Let's go.
Or
I haven't seen Infinity Pool, but I know him and Mia Goth are in that, and I've been loving Mia Goth. So I feel like if we team them up again.
He's getting pretty old though, and I don't mean that in an ageist way. I just don't think.
what about Glorfindel for him? Maybe.
Glorfindel is supposed to be like just a renowned badass.
What if he's the prince, or what if he's Éomer, or what if he's? I guess he's not. He's too old for Éomer. Is he a Theoden, or is he a Denethor? No, he's not Denethor.
Well, we could stick with Rohan and do Éomer, post Fourth Age as well. Like, because doesn't he go to rule Rohan?
Yeah. He rules over them.
Yeah.
What is Faramir doing right now, you guys?
He's
married
settling down.
to- Yeah.
With Éowyn.
So why aren't we looking at that story? I want a rom-com.
I think he becomes steward, not steward. He serves under Aragorn, I believe.
I want to
I don't
watch
remember what
a
capacity.
family drama with Éowyn and Faramir.
Oh, you know what we could do? Because they this is so dumb. This is so dumb as I'm thinking of it. They sort of hit it off, right, in the Houses of Healing, right? So if
Scrubs, but with Lord of the Rings.
Exactly, Ben. We're trying to expand this franchise. We're trying to appeal to as broad a possible audience as we can. We need to diversify genres. So we have a medical procedural starring Faramir and Éowyn, presiding over the Houses of Healing. And yeah, we have a Scrubs or a Grey's Anatomy series in Minas Tirith.
Oh my god, that's the worst. That is the absolute worst.
I'm just trying to make sure that this brand survives and makes as much money for Warner as possible.
Oh, I had a good one, but only with the anthology series in mind. But I know we get a little bit of it in the movies. But how Isildur dies? Because that whole thing is like this long siege that takes place overnight, and like and we can go into like the contemplation of like if he made the right decision, and like is this curse already like besieging him and like besieging his house and his lineage, because that's like a really intense story where they get like surrounded by an orc army, and the only person to survive is like this scout that sneaks away to like tell the story basically. Right. So I think that'd be a really cool one, and hire like another but that's the thing, is that we have an Isildur in Rings of Power right now.
I think that's what we're gonna see too. I think, or don't they have plans for at least 4 seasons?
I thought it was 5.
My belief,
I think we're gonna see that happen, is my point.
My belief is that we're probably gonna have the big climax of that series be the War of the Last Alliance. And if I doubt they would go as far as the disaster at Gladden Fields, which is where Isildur is killed. But they'll probably hint at that. So I don't think that Warner Brothers is going to want to step on the toes of... I mean, they're already competing enough with the fact that when they're going to be putting these films out, there's going to be a Lord of the Rings on TV. So that's competition already.
I don't know, man. We got like 9 Jokers right now. So like 9 Jokers. We literally have possibly 3 or more Batman coming out in the Flash movie. So like I'd be okay with more than one Isildur. Like,
I would too personally. I'm just thinking business decision wise.
Yeah.
If they would say, let's stay away from anything that Amazon could be doing. I think they might make that choice. I mean, to be honest, as much as a lot of these ideas are awesome, I think the most likely situation we're going to get is just movies starring the main characters from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, so that's like, what would you guys want to see? Like, so we've got Aragorn in the Fourth Age, we've got Legolas and Gimli buddy adventures. Who else from the Fellowship or, you know, immediate vicinity would you guys want to see?
That is, yeah, that's an interesting question.
I always want more Arwen. I would love to see more Arwen.
I'd love to see the scoring of the Shire.
Oh,
Like, if you know, in the perfect, you know, you guys brought up what if. That's the ultimate what if that they did not do in the movies, which I'm very glad for, because that's just like kicking you when you think you're up, and you're just like, oh man, it's just like a punch to the gut when they get back home. But I think you do like an ultimate, you know, alternate universe take of like the scoring of the Shire, and like, you know, you get your Saruman and your Grima Wormtongue or something. I think it would be hard to sell like business wise, because we have such an established canon with the Jackson movies, and it ended so perfectly. But I think that'd be an interesting like one-off.
Yeah, I think for me personally that I wouldn't want to see that as a standalone thing, even a what if thing. In terms of the Peter Jackson movies, what if they had done that? Because unless you have all of the build up to that, I think it sort of loses its impact. So seeing it just in isolation, lacking the context of the greater story, I don't know if that's as interesting to me. As much as I would have loved to see like what Peter Jackson did with that, even though, you know, one of the biggest complaints about Return of the King already is that it has 5 endings, so tacking another one on there wouldn't have been a good decision. As much as I would have loved to see his take.
I never understood that criticism. Like, it's got too many endings. Like,
this is the first time I'm hearing it.
Oh yeah, it was a joke. Oh, it's got like 3,000 endings. Like, every ending is amazing though. Like, you bow to no one, and then seeing like so what are the endings that people are complaining about? Is it because like
the endings are starting from like, so you have Eagle's rescue, Frodo and Sam fade to black, him waking up, and then you have the coronation, and
the Eagles are not an ending.
I think it's okay. So like,
it's the
I'm sorry,
I'm
I
glad
cut you off.
No, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of fade to blacks, and that's what people call them an ending. It's because like people didn't know how the story was going to end, so they think that it's going to end with Frodo and Sam dying to lava on Mount Doom, and then it's going to end with them reuniting, you know, in the bedroom, like everyone cheering, and then they think it's going to end with the coronation of Aragorn, and then I think that's the last fade to black until like Sam closes the door.
Yeah.
So maybe like, I guess it's just fade to blacks that people had a problem with, was just
and just if you think about the story, there's a lot of things to wrap up. So
yes.
I mean, man, if people had complaints about the amount of things that were tied up at the end of Return of the King, the movie, read the book. There's a lot of things they have to do, and then the scouring of the Shire on top of that when they get back. So, I think lacking the context of the overall story for me, I don't know if I'd want to see that. As cool as it would have been to see Jackson's take on it.
That's fair. Whatever. We'll go back to your, you know, foundation of Rohan. How was it?
I even forgot that that's something.
No respect. No respect.
I got no respect.
I go out. My wife says out when we got to see other people. She's like, I don't know any Rodney Dangerfield quotes.
I mean, you could have fooled me.
Right.
I pulled off the Marx Brothers with my sister the other day. It's like I wouldn't want to belong to a club that anyone would have me in, and I just butchered it. But she thought I was really clever.
I like it.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
I can only get into the members only.
As far as
club. No one knows what that is.
The members only. Jacket. I know what members only is. The jackets, yeah, absolutely.
That's the only one I can get into because I can buy the jacket.
Can you really?
No. I'm stopping right now.
No, but like I wonder. Okay, I'm gonna Google that right now. Like, I wonder if they're worth anything.
Oh, they're not. They're got to be $25. There might be a color that's worth something. But I love them.
They still have a website. updated.
Like you can buy new versions.
You can buy new members only jackets for $88.
I used to have a really nice cornflower blue one years and years ago.
Those two words, really nice, cornflower blue, don't go together.
You don't know what I look like in that. You can't speak until you see a picture.
Oh man, I'm looking at I wonder though, because I wonder what a vintage, like an original members only cost. Because I mean, you can't replicate the style that it was.
I don't know. I wonder.
I mean, don't tempt me. They got some jackets on sale for $73. They got a $98 hoodie. Some good stuff.
Yeah. What does it see? eBay is selling a coral one for $29.95.
Ooh, what a steal.
What a steal.
I'm looking at their cornflower blue one right now, and I'm like, ooh, I might have to get you because I miss you.
I'll wear it. Don't think I won't rock that thing.
You would look so good in them, Ben.
I mean, it's members only. I feel like
that's the whole point.
That's they look good on everybody.
Yeah,
that was their appeal.
Including James Spader. I don't know if he ever wore it, but he should have.
He really should have.
We're really jumping the boat here. Okay, so I want to see Arwen. Who do you want to see, Ben? What would make you happy as a Middle Earth boy?
Alex, what did Merry and Pippin do after the Return of the King? Because I'm not familiar with their story.
I believe,
it's been a while.
Let's see. I'm trying to remember which one became like the leader of the Shire, the sheriff.
The sheriff? Was that like he became the Shire sheriff?
Not the sheriff.
Sheriff.
I'm trying to remember.
I thought he was saying
the
like
this
Shire
town
in a funny
ain't big
way.
enough for the two of us because we're both very small.
It's too big.
It's too big. This town is way too big for both of us, actually.
I believe they became the Thrain of the Shire. I think I could be wrong on this.
Got it.
But Pippin,
I like Sheriff better.
Pippin named his kid after Faramir.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so they just settled down, and that's the thing. Like with the hobbits, they just kind of settle down and don't really have any more adventures.
I was thinking about that. As I'm saying this, I want to see Adam Driver in Lord of the Rings because I want to see Adam Driver in literally everything, everywhere, all at once. Like he had easily the best Super Bowl commercial. But
the Super Bowl commercial lost its thread. Let's just be honest. It got weird.
I loved it. I think I totally agree. It lost its thread and got weird, but the star power of Adam Driver like drove that.
Totally.
I can't wait for 65. It's 90 minutes long and it's him fighting dinosaurs. Oh, yes, absolutely. That's the cinematic universe I need.
Your TikTok about it really made me think about watching a movie I would have never watched otherwise because your enthusiasm is so
We got to
high.
go see it. We got to go see it.
Great, sure. Let's go.
But I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Adam Driver, I think it's Jim Jarmusch movie, Patterson, where it's just about Adam Driver. He's a bus driver, and he writes poetry, and he has, like, his daily routine, and it's really about nothing. Like, nothing really happens. You just kind of live with this guy for about
like
2 hours.
Jim Jarmusch movie.
Yeah, it's very Jim Jarmusch. And I'd love to see that with Sam. And, bring back Sean Astin, bring back the actress that played Rosie Cotton, and just have, give me 90 minutes in the Shire of just pure, peaceful living. Like, he's probably co-owner of the tavern now, of the Green Dragon.
Wow.
It's...
Yeah, just daily troubles and life in the Shire. Yeah.
Exactly. And, we're talking, one of my favorite comfort movies is Fantastic Mr. Fox. Like, we can stop motion animate it if we wanted to. We could do live action if we wanted to, and just we could have Wes Anderson himself come and direct it because he does such a good job with comfort movies, just his whole style.
ASMR
and I think
movies basically.
They really are. The fact that Wes Anderson has never been nominated for any technical categories, watch French Dispatch. The scene changes in those things are legitimately insane. But I would just love a comfort Shire movie. Like, you can put it on HBO Max. You can go direct to streaming. You can, because like Hobbiton's still there. They use it for tourists. Take a week off and film the movie, and you got it.
You know what that's perfect for is, and when you said like put it on HBO Max, like that's the holiday special of Lord of the Rings. Is you're just chilling at home and you're like, oh, I want something cozy to put on, and it's like, you know, an afternoon with Samwise.
Absolutely,
that would be perfect.
And you know, God, I can't think of their names, but Merry and Pippin, you know, they would be down to just like make like a cameo. Like they come into the bar one night.
They're doing a show of. They need to do it. They can't afford to.
Yeah, they don't need to do a podcast about. So it's like
Friendship Onion. Yeah,
exactly. So you know they would be down to make a cameo in there, and so I think I love that. Honestly, the more I say it, the more I kind of need it now.
Well, in the book, Sam goes to Greyhaven
after a while.
Oh, really?
Frodo leaves,
Oh.
and then Sam is like lives out his life.
Oh, I didn't know that. You didn't say that.
Yeah, he has like 13 kids with Rosie or something.
Cheaper by the dozen with Sam.
Oh,
Gamgee.
there you go. There you go.
Let's go.
It's a comedy. We found it.
We found it. I love it.
Wow.
You darn kids.
Perfect.
Perfect.
It's like my old gaffer used to say.
Who plays in this version? Sam's gaffer's still around. Who plays Sam's gaffer? Who plays old gaffer that he refers to so often?
I'm gonna say Martin Freeman. That's how you get him back.
Oh, that's good.
Ian McShane.
Oh my God! But that would have to be an R-rated, like Shire movie.
Because like I think of the gaffer. He's always got these sayings that are kind of like, you know,
God, Ian McShane's so great.
You know, these sayings that are kind of cynical.
Yeah.
I think Ian McShane could. It would be a harder edged gaffer, but yeah.
I was thinking like it's so.
Is Idris Elba gonna be?
Ooh.
I feel like he could be a great villain, just because like he's just got that edge to him. Like
What
he's
if
been a
he's
hero.
Melkor or Sauron.
I'd love that, honestly.
Ooh, yeah.
Like, or I was thinking, you know, like Alex has his Rohan founder movie. Like he could be the villain in that.
Yeah, one of the
Hiddleston.
leaders of like the Wayne Riders or something.
Yeah.
We're wasting our breath not putting Tom Hiddleston in this.
It's very
these
true.
Movies. He's Denethor. He's young Denethor.
He could be a young Gondorian king or steward.
I have Tom Hiddleston purely as an elf in my mind. Either
that's totally
good,
fair.
for good or bad. Like I mean, it's tough to put him as like Melkor or Sauron because like that's basically Loki. Like it's literally Loki. But
what if Fassbender is Denethor?
Fassbender Denethor for sure. Fassbender is like a man, like I don't know if you guys have ever seen Centurion. It's like a real like just straight line swords and sandals movie. And I mean, like it's so crazy to think that Michael Fassbender, Academy Award like thespian, is in 300. Like
I
he does the whole "we will fight in the shade."
I think he could be. I think Fassbender could be Boromir. You could do like a Boromir movie about him like fighting.
Retaking Osgiliath? Yeah.
Yeah, him fighting the forces of Sauron. So like all the stuff he does before he goes to the
I feel like we're all waiting for the next big Fassbender project, and he just hasn't signed on to anything. You know, granted, like what is it, Andrew Garfield? Ooh, another good actor. Andrew Garfield
is taking a knee right now.
Yeah, he's taking a knee, and granted, Michael Fassbender could be doing that too. But like, I feel like, you know, after X-Men, after, you know, being Steve Jobs is one of my favorite movies of all time. So like, just we're waiting for that next project from Fassbender.
We're gonna wait.
Really excited.
We're gonna stay right here in recording until Fassbender gets back to our people.
To sit in. One last thing that I feel this is a name that hasn't come up, and I feel like I was struggling with where to put him as, but I feel like it's like there's so many names you want. Where is Henry Cavill going?
Is he going?
I think I feel like he needs to go somewhere in this universe. Where do we like? Because I had him. So there's
He's Glorfindel.
Do you think he could pull off Elf?
Oh yeah, warrior elf boy.
I think young Henry Cavill, like Immortals Henry Cavill, could. I think he's too. Like, it's not. I'm not trying to typecast him, but I think he's too just ripped to be an elf.
Yeah, he's
like,
huge.
He's so he could slim down for sure. He could absolutely slim down.
And he puts
but
Chris what's Hemsworth as an elf when he gets at his low weight.
God, that they're both just so massive. They're just
But Chris
especially-
Hemsworth loses all of that every time he's done. Like, he doesn't want to stay that bulky.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I know he's got that Hulk Hogan movie coming out, and he got
Oh,
like obscenely huge for that one.
Jeez.
But no, I like Henry Cavill for sure, and now that they need to cancel The Witcher. Like, they need to bring they need, and no offense to Liam Hemsworth, but everyone loved Cavill for the casting, and they loved like the fandom part because he's a big time nerd, and so it's just like, pay Henry Cavill a little bit of money, do a 90-minute movie to close out the Witcher series, and then you're done.
Well, but that's just it. He left because, and speaking of the fact that he is a fan, he left because of creative differences. He said,
I know.
So that would be hard to get him back unless the showrunner is gone that he initially wanted to work with.
Yeah.
That's why he's gone.
I yeah, the business side always gets in the way of the creative side for sure. But just like, I just feel like they're burning money making another Witcher season without him. Like,
but Netflix doesn't care. They're just gonna cancel. You know what I mean? Like, they cancel shows people actually watch, and they don't cancel shows that people couldn't care less about. Well, so who's that prince that isn't in the books? Icthillian? What's his name?
In the movies?
Yeah.
Imrahil.
Could he be an Imrahil?
Oh, he could be.
Is that a waste on him?
I mean, I think, I don't know. I was just like, he's one of those guys who I'm like, I can't picture in my mind where he goes, but I want to see
What's
him.
Jon Snow doing?
Not
Kit
much
Harington?
right now. Well, is that Jon Snow series like greenlit? Because I know they had like a million Game of Thrones spin-offs planned, but I never know like what got canceled and what didn't.
I don't know.
I sadly...
Matt Smith needs to be there, and Matt Smith is going to be Denethor, and because he's freaky in the new ones, right? He's a bad boy. He loves playing bad boys.
I don't know. I don't need every game of because I was gonna say Millie Alcock as well, because especially her, because she was the young princess in
Alex is not watching it. Yeah,
I'm boycotting the show.
I think you're.
I'm mad at George R.R. Martin. I'm just gonna come out and say it. That's don't fair. Like him. I want to read the next book, man. So
we're never gonna get it. We're never gonna get it.
I know.
It's
I saw a very funny picture today where it's just George R.R. Martin with this gaggle of women, and it was like the caption's like, you gotta respect this guy. Like, he's just getting it. So yeah, I'm not watching any of that.
Because he took J.R.R.'s name. Really, that's why he's George R.R.
Yeah.
Is he really? Is that why?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's wild.
Called his shot.
Yeah, he sure did.
See, then that would have been, not saying J.R.R. Tolkien, like that's the reason why he stopped writing. If you would have said that about George R.R. Martin, I bet you that would have been the motivation George needed to finish Winds of Winter. Like, God, the Fast and Furious guy's calling me out now? Okay,
yes,
I'll finish the book.
100%.
Totally.
We should, so we're working on our goal right now to be able to watch, once we hit 20 patrons, we're going to watch Lord of the G-Strings with Scott Rubin, and then I think we're just going to keep that to the Patreon, because that's pretty
spicy.
It doesn't work for our current feed, but I think that's a good next thing, like at the next 25 or the next 30 patrons. What were we just talking about? I lost it. I knew it was a thing.
Watching Fast and Furious?
Yes. No, fan casting Fast and Furious characters. I think Arsenal Roy 2K pitched that idea of, where do you put Vin Diesel in Lord of the Rings? Where do you put Michelle Rodriguez in Lord of the Rings? Don't say anything.
That's great.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
So I think
that's really good.
So like our push goal is after we get to 20, next time when we get to 30, we'll do that. We'll bring Ben on and we'll do our fan casting for Fast and Furious of the Rings.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Perfect.
So before we
Fate
close...
of the Fellowship, but with an 8.
Wait, it's Bombadil and Hobbs. So before we and again, before we leave, stop doing this podcast. Anything else that we like? Oh, you're gonna wake up in the middle of the night and be like, I should have pitched this guy as a character, or anything you're like really hoping.
I think that'll happen. Is like I'll think of like other actors and such to put in this, because there's so many good actors and actresses that like this could be either a launching pad or a rejuvenation. Like there's Middle Earth is rife for everybody as long as like the script is good. And so I there's so many, but I like the stories we've come up with though. And I'm really curious, especially since it's going to be movies only, where TV seems to be like the main medium now. I'm really curious to see what movies they're going to do with this now that like these rights have been given, because like the rights are so hard to get. I'm really curious of what they're going to do, and I'm excited for the announcements.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I'm just hoping that we're going to see quality over quantity with these films. And like we said in the beginning, I think if it's true that they are closely working with Peter Jackson, I'm fairly confident that will help ensure that happens. So
I don't know. We saw him bungle
optimistic.
The Hobbit, so I don't have a lot of faith in him.
Well, I think that is a reason why they're going to bring him in and listen to him.
Right,
Granted, they made money, but I mean, they weren't necessarily critically well received. So we'll see. We'll see.
Well, we will see. Well, I'm grateful that this news happened so that we could bring Ben back sooner than later. We'll bring Ben once we hit 30 patrons, and we'll do our fan casting of Fast and the Furious of the Rings. And Ben, anything else you're working on? Your Patreon is going strong?
Patreon's going good. I'm reviewing all the Best Picture nominees and probably like a few more, like like The Whale, or is it To Leslie, the Andrea Riseborough movie?
Oh, the one with the Best Actress nomination.
Yeah,
that stirred the.
Oh yeah, that blew up the internet. But yeah, just reviewing some Oscar picks as well as like current movies. I just reviewed Cocaine Bear and doing my reviews for The Last of Us, which I'll probably watch after this. But yeah, just always working. The content grind never stops.
Is it patreon.com/the Ben Goddard or
the Ben Goddard?
Sick.
Yeah.
Alex,
Sick.
Sick. What are different ways people can get in contact with us or contribute to our Patreon goal, which is we're getting there.
I'm glad you asked. Well, they can go to patreon.com/pod of the rings if they want to help us hit that Patreon goal, get the
form.
Lord of the G Strings episode to happen and the fan casting. You can pledge at any level. The One Ring level still open if you want that exclusive.
It sure is, but that won't help us that much towards our goal. Right now we're looking for quantity over quality.
Look,
so.
I'm willing to say if somebody pledges at the One Ring level, we'll just do that episode.
Honestly, sure.
Like,
that's fair.
That's more valuable. Well, it's not more valuable.
It's $100 tier.
It's valuable. Look, I'd love to have the 20 Patreon goal, but if we get one person at the One Ring level, that's pretty sick too.
That's great. We'll finally make money on this podcast for 2 days.
Exactly. So
they can in the black.
They can go to patreon.com/pod of the rings. They can follow us on Twitter at what is it?
Pod of the Rings.
Pod of the Rings. These are all different. Twitter at Pod of the Rings. You can comment on our tweets. Make your voice heard. You can.
That.
We should. You can, we're not going to. You can also go to Instagram, POTR pod on Instagram, or you can email us at podcastoftheRings@gmail.com, or go to podcastoftheRings.com.
And don't forget, my lovely boyfriend, Alex Mitchell, who I didn't introduce at the top of this podcast, is working his way toward a completely Middle-earth themed Twitch stream that he is, you could donate while he's streaming any given day of the week at twitch.tv/Solkatu, SOLKATTU. And I'm Jessica Lynn Verdi. Ben, what do we say here on this podcast?
And until our roads meet again,
May we next time?
There we go.
Yep. Nailed it.